Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, we're going to be talking about 7 things we learned from the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross finale. Holy smokerini, what an absolute crazy way to end off Union Cross. My god, Goose slapped me with several rubber chickens. Nomura went balls to the walls with this one, folks. No, seriously, this update literally had everyone like,
all I feel is pain.
Personally, I can't say that I was expecting Union Cross to end in such a fashion, but, the amount of stuff that was thrown in here in the sense of giving us more context towards certain different things, adding even more lore on top of the absolute library-filled stack of lore we already have for Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, it's pretty insane. Now, my reaction video is still yet to come out, and I was planning on actually getting that video out first, but decided to get this one out first, just because I sort of feel like this is more important to talk about the pretty much like the 7 most important things that we saw within the finale. So hopefully guys enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and let's roll into it. Also, a massive shout out, by the way, to George for his incredible brain Luxu render. Thank you so much, dude, for allowing me to use this in my thumbnail. If you guys haven't seen George's work, you need to do yourself a favor and head on over to his Twitter. Keep up to date there. I'm going to put the link in the description down below. He makes his own custom Kingdom Hearts renders that look pretty much like the real deal. So thanks again, George. Shout out to you, dude. First things first, Luxu is confirmed to be the traitor amongst the Foretellers. So this was a major mystery point within Kingdom Hearts back cover. Pretty much the entirety of the movie revolved around this ongoing mystery as to who is the traitor amongst the Foretellers. We now know that it is in fact Luxu, as confirmed by literally the Master of Masters. Of course, some time ago via a story update for Union Cross, we actually see a scene where Ava confronts Luxu and asks him if he is the traitor, though that's pretty much one of the only inklings we've had. So yes, we now know Luxu is in fact the traitor, and that there is a purpose to the traitor in the group. Now, the context behind exactly what the traitor means is still currently pretty much unknown, though we have a slight idea. At the very beginning of the finale part 2, the Master of Masters and Luxu are having a conversation just before Luxu goes off to deliver the black box. This conversation is primarily talking about the reasoning behind the Foretellers, talking about the darkness as well as the purpose of the Keyblade War. It's explained by the Master of Masters that originally there were 13 original darknesses. By darknesses, we're talking about specifically the dark, sort of cloudy figures that we've seen over the course of events recently within Union Cross. There were 13 original versions of these guys. He mentions that it's impossible to destroy the darknesses without them taking on a physical form. The darknesses' intention as of right now is to possess people in order to take on a physical form. The Master tells Luxu that 7 of these original darknesses will have to possess 7 strong hearts, referring to himself as well as his 6 foretellers. This is due to the fact that if the darkness possesses a heart so strong, the user that is actually possessed by the darkness won't fall into total possession. The other 6 remaining darknesses are left over to possess specifically the Dandelion Union leaders, e.g. Ephemer, Brain, Ventus, etc. Now, the idea in terms of what the traitor specifically means in this sense when looking towards Luxu is, if we go back to part 1 of the finale, we see one of the darknesses confront Luxu. At this stage, Luxu already knows about this plan and how he is basically acting as a vessel for darkness, so rather than actually being possessed by darkness, he decides to act on his own accord, and what we can only assume, decided to actually defeat this darkness. Now, when I say defeat, I don't mean absolute annihilation, kill the darkness off, because we know that without the darkness taking on a physical form, that right there isn't particularly possible. Rather, I think that he escaped the tower not being possessed by darkness as intended by the Master of Masters, though of course we know that there is a reason behind the traitor existing, and rather that darkness was left over, either captured by Luxu so that Luxu can one day find a heart strong enough so that this specific darkness can then possess it, Hint hint, nudge nudge, who could I potentially be referring to? Yeah, probably Xehanort, as we do know in the Reminds cutscene where we see Xehanort talking to the Master of Masters. They are talking about a heart strong enough to use the darkness, not be totally possessed by it. We of course know Old Man Xehanort does have a heart strong enough to actually possess the darkness, but not to the point of being totally controlled by it, rather use it for its powers. At some stage, Luxu has got to hand down the Keyblade to Master Xehanort. As we know, in the end, he ends up with it. So in the sense of the Traitor thing, at least a part of it most likely refers to Luxu not being possessed by the darkness as intended. Rather, he wanted to seek out somebody else who had a strong enough heart to take on that role. There's most likely some other context there that we still don't know about in the Traitor side of things, but for the time being, this kind of seems like the likely area of which. Next up, the Dream Eaters are actually the fallen Keyblade wielders of Daybreak Town. However though, a Keyblade wielder does in fact though have two options, and that's to sleep, or if they refuse to sleep, they will potentially be reincarnated with someone else, join somebody else's heart. We'll talk about that in the next point, but let's talk about the Dream Eater thing, because oh my god! Now we've always known that when a Keyblade wielder perishes, so does the Cherthi. The Cherthi is directly connected to that of the Keyblade wielder's heart. What we didn't know though is if the Keyblade wielder does in fact decide to go to sleep during this, I guess you could call, death state, the Keyblade wielder and Cherthi then form together and create a Dream Eater. Now, the word spirit that is used within Dream Drop Distance, they're referred to as spirits, makes all the more sense now, my god. And another thing that I have been thinking of too is, obviously we know that Sora has like a pretty close relationship with the Dream Eaters throughout Dream Drop Distance. At the very end of Dream Drop Distance, he goes back into the Sleeping Worlds and obviously meets up with all of his Dream Eater buddies. Though of course we know with the assistance of Ephemer at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 when the massive Heartless Tornado comes in and starts like basically killing everyone. But we know that because of Ephemer, the assistance of which Sora was able to pretty much commune with all of the spirits of the dead Keyblade wielders, again through Ephemer. But I think the other side of this reason as to why Sora could do such a thing is also due to the relationship he actually literally has with all of the Dream Eaters in Dream Drop Distance, because he's not just friends with these random spirit Pokemon, but no, in fact he's friends with a lot of the dead Keyblade wielders from the time of Kingdom Hearts Key. This is probably one of the more mind-blowing things that came out of this update entirely. I know a lot of us are feeling pretty guilty as of right now, because we give these little guys quite a lot of flack, but I think we're going to now reconsider our behavior towards the Dream Eaters. The next thing we learned is Reincarnation. So yeah, the second option here, for when a Keyblade wielder dies, if they refuse the sleep option, from the words of Cherthi, they will dissolve and join into a new heart. Now, this is a new concept, and you might be thinking that, well, this is sort of similar to the whole Ventus Sora thing. I think the difference here is a literal physical piece of Ventus's heart made its way to Sora, and Sora of course accepted it into his own. In the sense here, this person's heart actually completely dissolves, but an essence of which enters another. Now, in the sense of this, which is completely, absolutely mind-blowing, the essence of the player is inside of Xehanort. The whole meme that has been running around that everyone is Xehanort kind of makes complete, utter sense. Like, I really do believe that Square Enix pay close attention to the memes that have been ongoing throughout Kingdom Hearts in the community for its entire lifespan, and if they can somehow integrate the meme into the ongoing story and lore, to a point where it like will actually make sense, oh trust me, Nomura will actually do it. This is a prime example of which, and yes, Xehanort actually does have the essence of the player character, the character that you play as in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, within him. Now, this is not to say that Xehanort is the literal player. After all, Xehanort is still his own person. He has his own intentions, own thoughts, etc. But some leftover fragments and memories of the player reside inside of Xehanort, and this would actually explain a few things. At the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, we see a series of cutscenes of the player character from Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. It then quickly flashes to Master Xehanort waking up on the beach in his younger days, before he had left Destiny Islands. We see him waking up, shedding a tear. We then see some text saying, "I've been having the same dream over and over again for as long as I can remember. An unfamiliar world filled with unfamiliar faces and unfamiliar goodbyes. As if I'm experiencing a life that belonged to someone else." One final piece of text right here, which is important to mention, is if I could get to the outside world, would I be able to meet my friends from my dreams? Now, this is all obviously within reference to the essence of the player character that resides within Xehanort. This is mind-blowing because obviously reading this at the time of Dark Road's release last year, we were like, what is this Kingdom Hearts mumbo jumbo? What is this? And because of the fact that Dark Road is part of the same app as Union Cross, it's really cool how Square Enix, from the story perspective, have managed to end Union Cross at a point where it directly starts at the very beginning of Dark Road. Also, that line of, if I could get to the outside world, would I be able to meet my friends from my dreams? It's literally due to the essence inside of Xehanort from the player character as to why Xehanort wanted to venture into the outside world. This might also explain Xehanort's fascination with the ancient Keyblade history. I thought I'd also mention the conversation between Xehanort and the Master of Masters in Remind as well. Just these two lines here. The first thing spoken by Xehanort is, "It's funny, somehow I can sense where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do," and then goes on to say, "Yes, even this coat, there's something familiar about it, as if I'm meant to wear this." Now, we might be reaching a little bit here in the sense of these two sentences, but still, this could be relating directly to that of the player character, in the sense of obviously Luxu existed during the time, as well as the Master of Masters, of the player character wearing the black coat. And the whole "what I'm supposed to do" comment could also be relating to the intentions of the player character, wanting a world of purity, as of course we know that's what Master Xehanort wanted in the end. Next up is the Master of Masters talking about Quadratum Shibuya. So as we see in the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret ending, the Master of Masters is currently in Quadratum Shibuya. He raises his hands up, standing on a tall building, and creates a heart shape with his fingers, putting it over the moon. We don't currently know his intentions per se towards why he's in this alternate parallel type universe of sorts, but this gives us a slight little idea towards which. In the final part, we do see the Master of Masters having a conversation with one of the Darknesses. The Darkness is wanting to understand the intentions of the Master of Masters and the plan that he has. Because it's the Master of Masters, well, obviously this man's gonna go out on a whim and try to do the best to provoke his enemy by actually being civil with it and kind of semi-what, explaining what he's up to. He mentions that in the current worlds, talking more so specifically about the Kingdom Hearts universe, which is the reality universe through what we learnt in Melody of Memory, there will always be darkness. No matter how much they expand, creating more and more and more worlds, darkness will always follow. This of course mainly stems from the hearts of people. Even if they somehow eradicate the darkness within the current universe, the darkness will just continue to grow. Darkness always follows. The Darkness does actually intervene here, saying that, well, we are your friend, kind of like, don't you want us around? And I love this sort of clap back with the Master of Masters being like, well, you know, sometimes, dude, I just want to be by myself. It's been made very apparent with the recent updates for Union Cross that the Master of Masters' intention, or at least part of it, is to wipe out the darkness. This dude hates the darkness. He goes on to mention that there is an alternate world out there, a world of fiction, a world where both light and darkness cannot take control. This world of fiction is most likely referring to that of Quadratum. As we know in Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, we learnt that there is reality and unreality. Reality referring to the known Kingdom Hearts universe with the Realm of Darkness, Realm of Sleep, the Disney Worlds, Destiny Islands, Twilight Town, all of that good jazz, and unreality refers to the world of Quadratum with Shibuya. So when the Master of Masters refers to a world of fiction, it is most likely referring to unreality Quadratum. The most interesting thing though here is when the Master of Masters is explaining this world of fiction, he refers to it as a place where your eyes nor voice can reach, a world of with a very strange looking symbol. I mean, this is just full-blown Kingdom Hearts at this point. This is just Nomura to a T. Now, I didn't know what this thing was, so I ended up searching it up, and what this is it's actually a reference mark. So in English language, we use the asterisk, but this is an asterisk sometimes used in Japanese and Chinese language. Essentially, what this refers to is something of importance. In the eyes of the Master, this alternate parallel universe is clearly something of importance, though of course, in the Kingdom Hearts lore of things, that symbol could mean something different. So it sort of seems like the Master of Masters wants to escape into the world of fiction, unreality, Quadratum, to a place where neither darkness or light can take control, so that there isn't this endless cycle of war waging between both light and dark, where darkness cannot consistently keep regrowing and causing utter chaos. What I'm interested to know though is how exactly does this idea of potentially going to Quadratum to then ditch the KH reality tie in with the 7 strong hearts, them being possessed by darkness. It will be very interesting how this all kind of melds together, and also what is Mom's intentions towards Quadratum. This gets me a little bit scared, especially with him putting his fingers over the moon in that heart shape. I feel like a certain someone, potentially Sora, might have something to do with stopping this man, but only time will tell. Next, Brain becomes a Luxu vessel. So this kind of took us back a little bit because, yeah, it turns out that Luxu that we see at the end of Kingdom Hearts Key back cover, with him in the Keyblade graveyard holding the black box, is of course still Luxu, but the version of Luxu right there is the Brain version. That was Brain, which is kind of insane to think about, but still Luxu. My god, Kingdom Hearts, my brain, it's melting! We see a conversation between Luxu and Brain, with Brain pretty much explaining to Luxu that he is essentially sacrificing himself for his friends to ensure his friends get to certain points safely, so that they don't get utterly destroyed. Now, it's made very apparent that within this conversation, Luxu is pretty impressed by Brain, though the conversation ends with, "It's a shame that basically your life is going to end today." Now, it's hard to gauge whether he meant that with a malicious, aggressive intent, or more so of a type of hopeful intent in a means of actually no, there's a way of saving you. Of course, it's very hard to portray emotion when it's a 2D mobile phone game that's got no voice acting, right? But of course, then later on in the final update, we then do see Brain waking up sometime in the future in Scala. However, though, it would seem that the vessel that Luxu uses, which is most likely the very first vessel he ever uses when body jumping, is actually Brain. And I would say that the point in which Brain is in Scala in the future has taken place many years after the sort of events close to that of Union Cross, with Luxu then taking over Brain's body. The question remains though, how exactly did Brain get into the future? We know that people can use the Ark in order to travel to the future, so long as there are people there with the memories of that person, and that there is an object acting as the medium. It would seem like that's probably what is going on here, as when we do see the cutscene of Brain waking up, Sigurd hands Brain his hat, which the hat would most likely act as Brain's medium. I would say that Brain and Luxu probably struck some type of a deal, and that Luxu may have sent Brain at some stage, once he was finished using his body, into the future to Scala. This could again be all part of the plan. But then to counteract that, when Brain wakes up in Scala, he does explain that there should be some others with him. So could he be referring to Laurium as well as Elrona? So in that case then, whenabouts does the point of which Luxu taking over Brain's body take place between escaping Daybreak Town's destruction to then be sent to the point of Scala, and Luxu going to the Keyblade graveyard in the body of Brain? Although I said that it could be many years, if this is the way that the events happened and rolled out, then it could be possible that Luxu also traveled to the point in which Brain wakes up in Scala, and body jumps to him during that point in time. Also too, we do know that Luxu's Keyblade appears in the study room that Ericus and Xehanort are in within Scala as well. I wonder at some point in time if Luxu Brain ends up becoming a teacher at Scala, to find, of course, that perfect apprentice. But crazy to know that back when we saw that final cutscene of Kingdom Hearts Key back cover of Luxu, that was indeed Luxu Brain. Next is Xehanort's mother and origin towards how he arrived in Destiny Islands. So this was a pretty small part of it, but I still consider it big nonetheless. We actually got to see Xehanort's mum before Sora's mum. Like, if you had told me this prior to obviously seeing it here, I would have thought you were crazy. Batshit crazy. But no, here we are 2021, seeing literally Xehanort's mother before we see Sora's mum. What is going on? Anyway, so we see a scene of Xehanort's mum in Scala handing baby Xehanort, yes, that is baby Xehanort, that is the baby that caused all the chaos and destruction over almost the past 20 years of our lives. Oh my god. Handing baby Xehanort to a blue-robed hooded figure. It then quickly zips to Destiny Islands, showing us this hooded figure holding baby Xehanort, then flashes into the future with an older Xehanort with the hooded figure standing behind him, then dropping to the floor, clearly passing away. But of course, this is Kingdom Hearts. When we do get more lore reveals, they only create more questions, right? So, number one, why exactly did Xehanort's mother give him up to some mysterious hooded figure that then delivered him to an entirely different world, being Destiny Islands? And two, who is this robed figure? Of course, there is a lot up in the air, but I'm just going to spitball something. All of this is speculation. So we do know that Ephemer ended up getting the Tome of Prophecies in the end handed to him from Brain. Ephemer then goes on to create Scala. Of course, the Tome of Prophecies then predicts the future and mentions and talks about set things that are meant to happen. No doubt, I'm assuming that Xehanort is probably mentioned in this book. I'm just wondering here that perhaps maybe Xehanort's mother actually came across the information towards Xehanort sometime in the future, learning about exactly what he would become. Could this potentially be a means of her trying to alter the course of events, but not knowing that through her actually sending Xehanort to Destiny Islands, that is literally part of the course of events? We see a scene of Xehanort waking up in Scala, though we do know from the first episode of Dark Road, the brown-robed figure opened a dark corridor for Xehanort to then be transported into Scala. The brown-robed figure is generally assumed to be Ansem without a physical form, though in this case it potentially may be different, though there is always that possibility that it was actually Ansem that time-traveled back to the point of when Xehanort was a kid on Destiny Islands, wanting to go to other worlds due to the memories of the player, and it was literally thanks to himself that he was then sent to Scala to learn how to use the Keyblade. This is really stooping into the dark side of stuff. When I mean like dark side of stuff, I mean Netflix is dark in the sense of like time travel and all that kind of thing. It's pretty wacky. Also too, what if Xehanort's mother is like an offspring or descendant of one of the ancient Keyblade wielders looking towards the Union group, or one of the Keyblade wielders of Daybreak Town? Her appearance definitely does remind me of Skuld, but as of right now we actually don't know what happened to Skuld after what happened to Daybreak Town. So again, everything is just speculation. Also, I should probably just mention, it's not absolutely confirmed as to whether or not this lady is actually Xehanort's mother, but just judging by the expression on her face when handing the baby over, it kinda seems like she is either the blood mother or a surrogate of sorts. And last up, the reveal in which I believe is the most mind-blowing, and that really is saying something because we got a lot of crazy stuff in this update, is that Xhanort is the founder of Scala, which I would then assume he is responsible for the creation of the city. So as we know, both Skuld and Xhanort were trying to escape via the Ark. One thing to note is that this version of the Ark is incomplete, so it means it's not going to work completely as it's intended. Now, we don't know what happened to Skuld. We didn't see any aftermath of exactly where she ended up. We are sort of assuming that she could be Subject X, but then Streliza could also fit into this category as well. So for the time being, it would seem as if Skuld didn't end up where Xhanort ended up. Now, it would appear as if Xhanort didn't actually end up escaping Daybreak Town. He was there right through the entire destruction of the world, as we do see a scene with the debris and destruction of Daybreak Town floating on water, with the Ark pod floating with Xhanort inside of it. It then pops open and Xhanort appears. Now, we don't know for sure, but this still seems like it is the world of Daybreak Town. The only thing is we do have some mountains off in the distance, though again, of course, there were mountains in the world of Daybreak Town, so still, this has to be Daybreak Town. What this would kind of mean is that Xhanort ended up creating the city of Scala on top of the ruins of Daybreak Town, which is made pretty apparent to us in Kingdom Hearts 3, as well as furthermore in Kingdom Hearts Remind in KH3 during the underwater segment of the Xehanort fight. We see the Daybreak Town tower turned upside down, meaning that Scala is built on top of it. And don't forget about that machine in Reminds, which you can activate, which kind of shows us a little performance of which towards how everything kind of came to be, with the destruction of Daybreak Town, then turning around and becoming Scala. The only thing is, when we look at Scala, there isn't any mountains out off into the distance, so that's one thing that's kind of boggling me a little bit, I guess you could say, but for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Scala. Everything points towards it. Meaning that, of course, I don't know how, but this man managed to create an entire city with some force of magic. I'm sure there's probably more to this, because there just ain't no way. This could be, though, where Ava's role comes into play, with her saving a bunch of Keyblade wielders to then use those Keyblade wielders to help out Xhanort with the construction of Scala. Of course, Brain wakes up in the future by the point of time that Scala is completely constructed. We don't know for sure if at this point in time Xhanort has passed away or if he is a crusty old man. As we know, Brain was on his way to headquarters, most likely the hierarchy of Scala, which where likely Xhanort will be, or someone sitting in his place. I do want to quickly talk about, though, the Scala that we see. When I first saw it, I was having a really hard time trying to identify exactly what world this was, because, well, yeah, we did have all of the familiar looking Scala language labeled all over the buildings. In the sense of the architecture, it seems very different to the architecture that we've seen whilst exploring Scala in Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, or specifically Kingdom Hearts 3. This version of Scala looks sort of more old era London, but this could just simply be a different area of the city, the higher portions of the city maybe. Keep in mind, we've really explored little to nothing of Scala at this point. So that is it right there, guys. That is 7 absolutely mind-blowing reveals that we got out of the finale of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. I loved it. I just simply didn't believe that we would have an ending to this degree for Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and I do honestly feel really bad for kind of bagging on this. Well, yeah, sure, I mean, the story has sort of been on this incline of getting more and more and more interesting, and you know, we were getting to that stage of like every single update was actually quite exciting and something to look forward to. It was a little bit disappointing that it just took so long for the story to kind of all come together, with updates being so extremely slow, but This took things from like a solid kind of 50 where the story was to an absolute 180. What needs to happen now is this game really does need to be remade into either a full-blown experience in MMORPG or just simply like make another Kingdom Hearts key back cover type movie setup. Having all of this lore, especially the lore that was contained in the finale, contained in a mobile phone experience, this really does need to be experienced by a larger audience, and there needs to be a better ease of access towards this. Looking at everything that has happened here in this final update, this is most certainly going to be vital for the future of the series. However guys, that is all for today. One thick video coming at you. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'm Cynical, hopefully you're having a fantastic one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.